What if the real monster on Halloween isn't lurking in the shadows? It's staring back from your mirror, begging you to remember what America forgot. Boom. Welcome to the edge of the abyss, where fear isn't just a thrill. It's a lie we've been telling ourselves. Right now, as midnight ticks closer, millions of us are gearing up to chase terror like it's the ultimate high, shelling out billions for screams and shivers. But why? Why crave the very poison our brains are built to dodge? Strap in for the Midnight Paradox. Tonight, we rip open the Halloween Paradox. Why we hunger for fear while it stalks our souls. And the killer twist? A buried American ritual, raw as fresh grave dirt, that I'll hand you on a silver platter. Revive it this October 31st and watch superficial spooks morph into life-altering lightning. We're blasting through brain-bending science, history's hidden horrors, philosophy's gut punches, and that lost right to shatter your world. Don't blink. You might miss the ghost in the machine. It's late October, and the air's got that crisp bite that screams Halloween. Kids are plotting their candy routes. Adults are dusting off costumes. Maybe a vampire cape or a zombie mask. And haunted attractions are raking in billions. That's not an exaggeration. Halloween is a juggernaut, a cultural beast that has us spending more on fake blood and plastic skeletons than some countries spend on their entire holiday season. But strip away the candy corn and jump scares, and you're left with something primal, something that's been with us since our ancestors huddled around fires, telling tales of spirits crossing into our world. Halloween, at its core, isn't just about cheap thrills or sugar highs. It's about fear. Fear we invite. Fear we dress up in costumes and parade through the streets. It's the one night we don't just face the things that go bump in the dark. We flirt with them. We taunt them. We turn them into a party. But here's the paradox that's got me hooked, and I bet it'll hook you too. If fear is supposed to protect us, to keep us alive by screaming run when danger's near, why do we chase it? Why do we build entire industries around feeling scared out of our wits? Let's start with you, standing in that eerie English cemetery. It's not some random horror movie set. It's a nod to where Halloween's deepest roots lie. Long before America turned this night into a candy-coated spectacle, the Celts in ancient Britain and Ireland called it Samhain, a festival when the veil between the living and the dead was so thin you could practically feel the spirits brushing past. They lit bonfires to keep the ghosts at bay, wore masks to confuse them, and left offerings to appease whatever might be lurking. That cemetery you're picturing, with its mossy graves and whispering oaks, could have been one of their sacred spots, a place where fear wasn't just a feeling but a conversation with the unknown. Now fast forward to America, where those traditions hitched a ride with immigrants and morphed into the Halloween we know, trick-or-treating, jack-o'-lanterns, and all. But something got lost along the way, something we'll uncover later. A ritual so hauntingly simple, it makes modern Halloween feel like a glossy cover-up. Back to the paradox. You're in that cemetery, heart racing, and you're not alone. Not just because of the whispers and the mist, but because this urge to feel fear is wired into us. Scientists have a name for it, the fight-or-flight response, that ancient instinct that pumps adrenaline when a predator's near. Except on Halloween, there's no real predator, just actors in cheap makeup or a spooky soundtrack cranked to 11. So why does your brain light up like a jack-o'-lantern when you walk through a haunted house? It's because fear, when it's safe, is a drug. Your amygdala, that little almond-shaped chunk of your brain, doesn't just scream danger. It also triggers a dopamine hit. The same chemical rush you get from winning a game or biting into chocolate. It's why you laugh after a jump scare, why you feel alive when the fake chainsaw stops an inch from your face. Fear, in a controlled dose, is a high we're addicted to. And Halloween? It's the ultimate dealer, serving up just enough terror to keep us coming back. But it's not just biology. There's something deeper, something that makes Halloween more than a thrill ride. Think about the last time you dressed up, maybe as a ghost, a witch, or some creature that'd make your younger self hide under the covers. When you put on that costume, you're not just playing pretend. You're stepping into the skin of something otherworldly, something that doesn't play by life's rules. For one night, you get to be the monster, the ghost, the thing that scares. And that's where the paradox starts to twist. We don't just crave fear, we crave control over it. Halloween lets us take the things that haunt us, death, the unknown, the stuff of nightmares, and turn them into a game. We paint our faces, carve pumpkins, and tell ghost stories, not because we're fearless, but because we're terrified. We're terrified of what's out there, or what's not out there, and Halloween gives us a way to mock it, to say, I see you, and I'm not running. Now, let's push that idea further. Imagine you're still in that cemetery, but the mist parts, and you see a figure, not a ghost, but someone you know, someone you've lost. Your heart skips, not from fear, but from something heavier. Halloween, at its ancient core, wasn't just about scaring off spirits, it was about reaching out to them. The Celts believed the dead could walk among the living on Samhain, and early Americans, especially Irish immigrants, carried that belief across the ocean. They didn't just light candles to ward off ghosts. They lit them to guide the ones they loved back home, even for a moment. That's the forgotten piece we'll dig into later. A ritual called the Dumb Supper, where you sit in silence with an empty chair, inviting the dead to your table. It's not some hokey seance. It's a raw, quiet act of facing the fear of loss head-on. And Americans? We've all but erased it, trading it for plastic pumpkins and candy halls. But what if bringing it back could unlock something we've been missing? Let's zoom out. You're not just in that cemetery. You're part of a bigger story. Halloween in America is a paradox in itself. A holiday born from ancient dread, now a glittery bash where kids dressed as superheroes demand Snickers and adults chug pumpkin spice cocktails. We've taken a night meant to wrestle with mortality and turned it into a billion-dollar industry. And yet, the fear still lingers. You feel it when you walk past a dark alley on October 31st, when you hear a creak in the house, or when you catch your reflection in a costume mask and don't quite recognize yourself. That's the paradox. We chase fear to feel alive, but we're also running from the real fears: loss, loneliness, the ticking clock of our own lives. Halloween lets us play with those fears, dress them up, laugh at them, but it also whispers a question. What are we really afraid of? So, here's where we're headed tonight. We're going to crack open this paradox like a pumpkin, digging into the science of why fear feels so good, the history of how Halloween turned from a sacred night to a spooky circus, and the philosophy of why facing fear might just be the key to living better. And at the end, we'll resurrect that lost ritual, the Dumb Supper, and I'll challenge you to try it this Halloween, not because it's trendy, but because it's a way to stare into the void and come out changed. You're still in that English cemetery, the moon bleeding red, the whispers growing louder. Are you ready to find out why you're here, why you're drawn to this night, this feeling? Stay with me, because the answers are waiting in the dark, and they're stranger than any ghost story you've ever heard. Let's keep going. You're probably wondering, okay, if fear's a drug, why does it hit so hard on Halloween? It's not just the costumes or the creepy vibes. There's something about this night that feels different, like the world's holding its breath. Part of it's cultural. America loves a good spectacle, and Halloween delivers. We spend weeks planning costumes, decorating lawns with fake cobwebs, and queuing up horror movies like they're comfort food. But it's more than that. Halloween taps into a collective itch, a need to poke at the things we don't talk about in daylight. Death, the afterlife, the idea that maybe, just maybe, there's something watching from the shadows. And the craziest part? We don't just tolerate it, we love it. We build mazes to get lost in, wear masks to hide who we are, and tell stories that make our skin crawl. It's like we're daring the universe to scare us, to prove there's more to this world than what we see. Think about the last Halloween party you went to. Maybe you were a werewolf, fake blood dripping down your chin, or maybe you just watched from the sidelines, sipping a beer while someone screamed at a fake spider. Either way, you were part of the ritual. Not the old Celtic kind, but the modern American one, where we turn fear into a game we can win. That's the genius of Halloween. It takes the scariest parts of being human and makes them fun. But it's also a lie, or at least a half-truth. Because while we're laughing at the guy in the clown mask, we're ignoring the deeper fear, the one that doesn't come with a costume. The fear of what happens when the party's over, when the lights go out, when we're alone with our thoughts. That's where the paradox lives, and that's what we're chasing tonight. So, you're still standing in that cemetery, the mist thicker now, the whispers sharper. You're not just here for the thrill. You're here because something in you wants to know. Why do we love this night? Why do we need it? And what have we forgotten that could make it mean more? The answers are coming, and they're going to hit like a cold wind through those ancient graves. Stick with me, because this is just the beginning, and the night's about to get a lot darker. Cemetery. Your heart's pounding, palms sweaty, but you're not running. Why? Because your brain's pulling a fast one. Deep in its wiring, the amygdala, that tiny, almond-shaped panic button, lights up like a Halloween lantern when it smells danger. It's evolution's alarm system, screaming, lion, or ghost, to get you moving. Back when saber-toothed cats were real, that reflex kept your ancestors alive. Today, it's why you flinch when a fake zombie lurches in a haunted house. But here's the twist. When the scare's safe, like on Halloween, that same amygdala triggers a dopamine rush, the brain's feel-good chemical. It's the same high you get from acing a test, kissing someone new, or nailing a TikTok dance. Fear, in a controlled dose, isn't just tolerable, it's addictive. Think about it. You scream, then laugh, heart racing as you high-five your friends. That's no accident. It's biology's reward for playing with danger. Zoom in closer. When you step into that haunted maze, your brain's running a high-stakes simulation. The creaky floorboards, the sudden wail, the actor in a bloodied mask. It's all fake, but your amygdala doesn't care. It fires off cortisol and adrenaline, prepping you for fight or flight. Your pupils dilate, breath quickens, muscles tense. But your prefrontal cortex, the rational boss, chimes in. Chill, it's just a guy in makeup. That clash, danger signal meets safety net, creates a sweet spot. The adrenaline spikes, then crashes into euphoria as dopamine floods your system. It's why you feel alive, almost invincible, after surviving a scare. Studies back this up. A 2020 experiment from Aarhus University showed people who voluntarily face fear, like horror movie buffs, report higher life satisfaction. They're not masochists, they're biohackers, using fear to sharpen their emotional edge. Halloween, it's the ultimate playground for this hack, turning your brain into a thrill machine. But it's not just about the high. There's a deeper layer to why we chase this. Fear, when controlled, is a rehearsal for life's real terrors. Think about the last time you walked a dark street alone or got a late-night call that made your stomach drop. Those are the moments your brain's prepping for when you let a fake ghoul make you jump. Psychologists call it stress inoculation. By facing small, safe doses of fear, you train your mind to handle the big stuff: job loss, heartbreak, or the creeping dread of mortality. Halloween's genius is that it packages this training in fun. Costumes let you play the monster, haunted houses let you conquer the dark. It's like a gym for your psyche, building resilience with every scream. And Americans? We're all in, spending over $12 billion yearly on Halloween, from fog machines to fake fangs, per recent retail data. We're not just partying, we're stress testing our souls. Now, let's twist the knife. This addiction to fear isn't just personal, it's collective. Halloween's a cultural pressure valve, letting us face what we bury in daylight. Think about America today. We're obsessed with control, curated feeds, anti-aging creams, bulletproof routines to dodge chaos. But chaos doesn't play nice. Death, loss, the unknown, they lurk, and we hate it. So, we turn to Halloween, where we can script the scares. You dress as a vampire, you're immortal for a night. You carve a pumpkin, you ward off spirits with a grin. It's defiance, a middle finger to the void. But here's the paradox biting at our heels. The more we control fear, the more it controls us. We crave it because it reminds us we're alive, but it also whispers what we're running from, our own fragility. That's why Halloween's not just a holiday. It's a mirror, reflecting our need to dance with the dark. Let's push deeper. Ever notice how fear feels better with others? You're in that haunted maze, friends screaming beside you, and the shared panic turns into shared joy. That's no fluke. Social psychology says fear bonds us like soldiers in a foxhole. When you're scared together, oxytocin, the connection hormone, spikes, knitting you closer. Halloween's a master at this. Block parties, group costumes, late-night ghost story sessions. It's why strangers high-five after surviving a haunted house. But there's a flip side. Fear also isolates. In that cemetery, alone with the whispers, it's just you and your thoughts. Halloween straddles both, community revelry and solitary chills. The paradox thickens. We seek fear to connect, but it also forces us to face ourselves. That's where the real magic happens, and where our forgotten ritual, the dumb supper, comes in later. It's fear turned inward, shared silence that binds and breaks you open. Now let's get weird. There's a state your brain hits during peak fear called flow. Ever lose track of time in a haunted attraction, totally locked in? That's flow, per psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. When challenge and skill balance, ego dissolves, and you're one with the moment. Halloween scares engineer this. The stakes feel high, but you're safe, so you're free to surrender. Costumes amplify it. Slipping into a witch's cloak or a ghoul's mask erases you, letting you merge with the vibe. It's why kids in capes and adults in fake blood feel untouchable. But flow's not just fun, it's transformative. Studies show it boosts creativity, lowers stress, even rewires neural paths for resilience. Halloween's a flow factory, and fear's the fuel. Paradox alert, the thing that haunts, fear, unlocks freedom if you lean in. Let's circle back to that cemetery. Why an English one? Because it's the cradle of Halloween's soul. Samhain, the Celtic root, wasn't about candy. It was about survival, facing spirits in fog-soaked fields. Those vibes carried to America, where immigrants wove them into our DNA. But we've diluted the potion, trading primal rites for plastic pumpkins. The dumb supper, that silent meal for the dead, was one casualty. A practice where fear wasn't a game, but a bridge to the beyond. You'll see how to revive it later. But for now, know this. Your brain craves fear because it's a portal. To what? Connection, strength, maybe even the eternal. Neuroscience hints at it. Fear activates memory centers, etching moments deep. That's why Halloween nights stick with you. Every scream, every laugh, carved into your gray matter like a jack-o'-lantern's grin. So, what's the deal with this addiction? It's not just dopamine or flow, it's purpose. Fear reminds us we're temporary and that urgency sharpens life. Halloween's the arena where we practice, but we've forgotten the stakes. Americans chase surface scares, $500 million on haunted attractions alone, while dodging deeper dreads. The paradox stings. We love fear because it makes us feel immortal, but it also screams we're not. That's the thread we'll pull next, diving into Halloween's history, how it went from sacred fires to corporate candy, and why the dumb supper got buried. Then we'll hit philosophy, asking why facing fear might be the key to living bigger. And at the end, a blueprint to bring back that ritual, turning your Halloween into a night that haunts for all the right reasons. Picture this. You're still in that cemetery, but now the fog parts, revealing a table set in the moonlight. An empty chair waits, a plate untouched. That's the dumb supper, whispering from the past. It's not just a meal, it's a dare to sit with fear, not run from it. Your brain's ready, dopamine primed, flow on tap, resilience building. Halloween's not just a party. It's a paradox that could change how you face the dark, in costume or out. Stay with me. We're just getting started, and the shadows are closing in. Let's start where the fog is thickest, ancient Britain, over 2,000 years ago. The Celts didn't call it Halloween. They called it Samhain, a word that hums with mystery, pronounced so-in, like a whisper from the earth. It marked the end of harvest, the pivot to winter's dark, when the veil between worlds thinned to gossamer. Imagine windswept moors, bonfires roaring against the night, druids chanting as villagers donned animal hides to fool wandering spirits. Not out of fun, but survival. Ghosts, they believed, could slip through, vengeful or lost, seeking warmth or reckoning. Offerings of food, carved turnips glowing with embers, weren't decorations. They were bribes to keep the dead at bay. Fear wasn't a game. It was a handshake with the unknown, a pact to honor what lurked beyond. That English cemetery you're standing in, it's a relic of that world, stones etched with lives that once danced under Samhain's moon. Now jump forward, but not too far. The Romans crashed the party, conquering Britain around 43 AD, bringing their own flavor. Their festival of Pomona, goddess of fruit, mingled with Samhain, apples for turnips, feasts for offerings. Then Christianity rolled in, cloaking pagan rites in saintly robes. By the 8th century, the Church crowned November 1st All Saints' Day, or All Hallows, making October 31st All Hallows' Eve, Halloween's seed. But the Celts didn't let go easy. Bonfires still burned, masks still hid faces, and the dead still lingered in whispers. This wasn't kids in costumes. It was a culture wrestling with mortality, fear woven into faith. Fast forward to medieval England, and you'd see souling. Poor folk knocking for soul cakes, small pastries traded for prayers for the dead. Picture that cemetery again, but now with flickering candles. Villagers leaving crumbs on graves, not for fun, but for closure. Here's where the thread crosses the ocean. By the 1840s, the Irish potato famine drove millions to America, their trunks packed with Samhain's ghosts. In cramped tenements from Boston to New York, they kept the old ways, carving turnips, later pumpkins, easier to cut, lighting candles, telling tales of banshees. Halloween wasn't yet a national bash. Puritans in early America sneered at pagan nonsense, banning festivities in places like Massachusetts. But the Irish, and later Scots, didn't care. They wove their rituals into the New World, blending them with native harvest traditions and Black American storytelling from the South. By the late 1800s, Halloween started to spark. Victorian parlors hosted ghost parties, where guests swapped spooky tales by gaslight. Postcards flew, witches and black cats splashed across them, turning fear into whimsy. That's the paradox creeping in. A night of dread was becoming a game, fear dressed up in lace and laughter. Enter the 20th century, and America's full tilt into reinvention. The 1920s saw Halloween explode. Community parades, kids guising for treats, mischief nights where pranks teetered on chaos. The Great Depression made it communal. Neighbors shared apples, homemade sweets, anything to keep the dark at bay. But there was still depth, especially in immigrant enclaves. The Dumb Supper, our lost ritual, thrived in these years, particularly among Irish-American families in places like Appalachia or Chicago's backstreets. Picture it. A family gathers at midnight, table set with harvest fare, apples, bread, maybe a stew simmering low. An empty chair sits, plate untouched, a photo or heirloom placed reverently. No one speaks. The silence is heavy, not spooky but sacred, every creak a reminder of who's missing. It wasn't a seance. It was a bridge, a way to sit with loss, to invite the dead without fear. You ate. You remembered. You broke silence with a shared story or toast, and somehow, the haunt felt lighter. Then came the fall. Post-World War II, America went all in on prosperity. Suburbs bloomed, TVs glowed, and Halloween got a makeover. Candy companies saw dollar signs. By the 1950s, trick-or-treating was king, fueled by Mars and Hershey's. Costumes went mass-produced, plastic masks replacing hand-stitched guises. Haunted houses popped up, but as entertainment, not ritual. The Dumb Supper? It faded, too raw for a nation chasing shiny new dreams. Why sit in silence when you could buy a glow-in-the-dark skeleton? By the 1970s, Halloween was a billion-dollar beast, fear commodified into fun-sized bars. Appalachia held on longest, old-timers whispering of silent feasts in mountain hollers. But even there, it waned. Commercialization didn't just bury the ritual, it buried the paradox's heart. Fear as connection, not just consumption. Let's pause in that cemetery. The fog's thicker now, the blood moon lower, and you can almost see that dumb supper table among the graves. Candles flickering, shadows stretching. Why did we let it go? Because America loves progress, and progress loves ease. Rituals like the supper demand time, vulnerability, a willingness to face the void. Candy's easier, jump scares are instant. But here's the sting. In sanitizing Halloween, we lost its soul. Samhain wasn't about escaping fear. It was about embracing it, shaking hands with the dead to feel alive. The Irish who brought it here knew that, setting tables for ghosts while famine's scars lingered. Early Americans, scraping by, used it to bind communities. Now, we spend $12 billion on Halloween, $500 million on haunted attractions alone, chasing thrills that fade by November 1st. The paradox bites. We crave fear to defy death, but our modern version dodges the real haunt, mortality itself. Zoom out. Halloween's history is a tug-of-war between sacred and spectacle. The Celts faced spirits head-on. Medieval Christians prayed them away. Victorian Americans romanticized them. Today, we commercialize them, turning ghosts into gimmicks. But traces remain. Trick-or-treating echoes, souling. Pumpkins mimic turnip lanterns. Costumes carry the DNA of Celtic masks. And the Dumb Supper? It's the missing link, a ritual that doesn't dodge fear but dines with it. Why does it matter? Because it's not just nostalgia, it's rebellion. In a culture obsessed with youth, Botox, and endless scrolls, sitting in silence with an empty chair forces you to face what we avoid: loss, time, the ticking clock. It's not spooky. It's profound, a paradox resolver. Fear haunts, but honoring it heals. Let's connect the dots. Your brain, wired for fear, craves Halloween's safe scares, dopamine hits, flow states, resilience training. But history shows fear was once more a bridge to the beyond, a way to live bigger by facing the end. The Dumb Supper, born in Celtic mists and carried to American hearths, was that bridge. Its silence wasn't empty. It was full, memories, regrets, gratitude swelling in the quiet. Reviving it, as we'll map out later, isn't just a nod to the past. It's a middle finger to a culture that buries death under plastic pumpkins. Imagine a table, a candle, an empty seat. You sit, you feel the weight, you emerge changed. That's the power history hands us, if we dare. Next, we'll climb deeper into the paradox's core, philosophy and physics, where fear meets meaning. Why does facing death make life electric? Could that empty chair hum with echoes of the eternal? And at the end, I'll give you the keys to that dumb supper. How to set it, sit it, break its silence. For now, picture that cemetery table, fog curling like spirits joining the meal. Halloween's history isn't dead, it's waiting. Will you answer the call, or let it fade like whispers in the dark? Let's start with the big question. Why does fear, the thing that's supposed to keep us running, make us feel like we're touching eternity? Stand in that cemetery again, fog curling, moon glaring. You're not just scared. You're awake, every sense razor sharp. That's no accident. Philosophers like Martin Heidegger have a term for it, being toward death. The idea is brutal but beautiful. Knowing you'll die doesn't just haunt you, it defines you. It's the ticking clock that makes every heartbeat count, every midnight moment pulse with purpose. Halloween, with its skeletons and ghosts, is our annual reminder of this. We don't just play with fear, we lean into it, because deep down, we know mortality is the fuel for meaning. Without an end, life's just an endless loop, a Netflix queue with no finale. The paradox bites. We crave fear because it screams we're temporary, and that urgency makes every laugh, every love, every pumpkin carved under a harvest moon burn brighter. But let's twist it further. Halloween's not just a reminder of death, it's a rebellion against it. When you slip on that vampire cape or paint your face like a skull, you're not hiding, you're taunting the void. You're saying, I see you, death, and I'm still here, dancing. This is where philosophy gets wild. Friedrich Nietzsche, the guy who stared into the abyss and dared it to blink, would love Halloween. He talked about overcoming, facing the worst and emerging stronger, what he called the will to power. Fear's our abyss, and Halloween's our stage. We dress as monsters to master them, laugh at ghosts to defy them. But here's the paradox's edge. The more we mock death, the more it whispers back. That shiver in the cemetery? It's not just adrenaline. It's the universe reminding you that you're part of something bigger, something that doesn't end when the lights go out. Now, let's get weirder, because the midnight paradox doesn't shy away from the strange. What if that whisper in the fog isn't just your imagination? Modern physics, the kind that makes your brain hurt, flirts with ideas that sound like Halloween ghost stories. Quantum mechanics suggests consciousness might not be as local as we think. Some theories, like those from physicist Roger Penrose, propose it could linger, entangled across dimensions, even after the body's gone. Ever heard of the quantum immortality hypothesis? It's a mind-bender. In some multiverse scenarios, your consciousness might persist, hopping timelines where you don't die. Spooky? Sure. But it's not sci-fi, it's science flirting with the supernatural. Halloween, with its thin veil, feels like a nod to this. The Celts believed spirits crossed over on Samhain. Maybe they were onto something, sensing echoes we're only now probing with equations. That dumb supper, with its empty chair? It's not just symbolic. It might be a bridge, a moment where you're not just honoring the dead, but listening for them. Back to the cemetery. Picture that table again, set among the graves, candles flickering, an empty seat waiting. The dumb supper isn't some dusty relic. It's a philosophical act, a dare to sit with the void. When you eat in silence, staring at that untouched plate, you're not just remembering. You're confronting the big questions. What's death? What's left? Why does fear make you feel so alive? Existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre would say, it's because freedom lives in the face of nothingness. You're free to choose how you face fear, run, or embrace it. Halloween lets you choose the latter, but modern America's version is shallow. We jump at shadows, then drown them in candy. The supper? It's the real deal, forcing you to feel the weight of absence, to wrestle with the paradox head-on. Fear haunts, but it also liberates. Let's push deeper. Why does this matter now? America's obsessed with dodging death. Think anti-aging tech, influencers preaching live forever diets, apps to optimize every breath. We're so busy running from the end that we forget to live. Halloween's our one night to flip the script, but we've watered it down. The $12 billion we drop on costumes and haunted houses is a scream for meaning, but it's muffled by plastic fangs and jump scares. The dumb supper, born from Celtic roots and carried by immigrants, was different. It wasn't about escaping fear. It was about inviting it to dinner. You sat, silent, with an empty chair for someone gone. Parent, friend, even a version of yourself. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of what you don't say in daylight. Regrets, gratitude, questions about what's next. Breaking that silence with a toast or a memory. That's alchemy, turning fear into connection, haunt into healing. Now, let's get personal. Imagine you're at that supper, not in the cemetery, but your own dim kitchen, October 31st. The table's set, apples, bread, a flickering candle. The empty chair holds a photo, maybe your grandmother's, her smile frozen in time. You don't speak, you eat, and the silence presses in. Your mind wanders. Her laugh, that fight you never resolved, the way she'd love your Halloween costume. Fear creeps up, not from ghosts, but from the truth. She's gone, and you're not forever. But then, something shifts. The silence isn't just loss, it's presence. You feel her, not as a specter, but as a pulse in your own story. That's the paradox resolved. Fear of death makes life vivid, and honoring the departed makes you whole. Philosophy calls this authenticity, living true to your finite self. Halloween's supposed to do that, but we've traded it for superficial thrills. Let's zoom out. The paradox isn't just personal, it's cultural. America's Halloween is a contradiction, a holiday born from facing the void, now a billion-dollar dodge. We spend $500 million on haunted attractions, chasing controlled scares, but shy away from real ones. The dumb supper, lost in the post-war candy boom, was America's last stand for raw ritual. In Irish enclaves, Appalachian hollers, it wasn't spooky, it was sacred, a way to sit with fear and come out stronger. Why revive it? Because it's a middle finger to our death-denying culture. We're so busy scrolling past grief, numbing it with likes, that we've forgotten how to feel it. The supper forces you to 30 minutes of silence, a meal shared with absence, a toast to break the spell. It's not nostalgia, it's rebellion, a reclaiming of Halloween's soul. Now, the weird again. If quantum whispers hint at consciousness lingering, what's that empty chair really holding? Not just memory, but possibility. Some physicists, like David Bohm, talk of an implicate order, a hidden reality where past and present tangle. The supper's silence might be a tuning fork, resonating with that order. Not saying you'll see ghosts, but you might feel them, echoes of love, pain, unfinished business. Halloween's veil thinning isn't just myth. It's a metaphor for what we're chasing. Connection to something bigger, something that outlasts the grave. The paradox sings, we crave fear to touch eternity, but only by facing our limits. Let's tie it back. Your brain loves fear for its dopamine kick. History shaped it into ritual, but philosophy asks, what's it for? Heidegger says death awareness sparks authenticity. Nietzsche says it fuels power. Quantum physics hints it might not end. Halloween's the stage, but we've lost the script. The Dumb Supper's your rewrite, a ritual that doesn't dodge the paradox, but dives in. Next, we'll hand you the keys. How to set that table, hold that silence, break it with meaning. That's not just history. It's your future this Halloween. Stay with us. The climax is coming, and it's a blueprint to make fear your ally, not your enemy. Why does this matter? Because the paradox we've been chasing, craving fear while running from it, lives in this ritual. Halloween's modern face is a dodge. We spend billions on costumes and haunted houses, chasing safe scares to avoid the real ones. Loss, grief, the ticking clock of our own end. These are the ghosts we banish with candy and jump scares. But the Dumb Supper flips the script. You don't run, you invite the ghost to dinner. You sit, silent, for 30 minutes, maybe with family or friends, maybe alone, letting the quiet do the talking. Every creak, every flicker, every unspoken thought bubbles up. Regrets you never voiced, gratitude you never shared, questions about what lies beyond. Then, you break the silence with a toast, a story, a single memory spoken aloud. It's not spooky. It's raw, a bridge between the living and the dead, fear and freedom. This is how you resolve the paradox. By facing the haunt head-on, you turn it into healing. Let's break it down, step by step, so you can do this yourself. First, the setup. Keep it simple. Halloween's roots aren't in excess. Grab seasonal foods. Apples for Pomona's nod, bread for sustenance. Maybe a soup or stew to warm the night. No need for a feast. The point's not the meal, but the moment. Set the table with intention. A cloth if you've got one. A single candle for light. No electric glow. The empty chair is the heart. Place it prominently. Add a memento that means something. A photo of your mom. A ring from a friend. Even a note you wrote to a younger self. If you're with others, agree beforehand. No talking, no phones, no distractions. This isn't a party, it's a pilgrimage. If you're solo, it's even more potent. Fear thrives in solitude, but so does clarity. Now, the silence. Sit down, start eating, and let the quiet take over. 30 minutes is enough. Long enough to feel the weight, short enough to stay sharp. At first, it's awkward. Your mind races. This is weird. Or did I lock the door? But then it shifts. The silence becomes a canvas, and your thoughts painted. Memories of the person tied to that memento, moments you buried, fears you dodge. Maybe it's your grandfather's laugh, the fight you never resolved, or the way he'd carve a pumpkin with surgical precision. Maybe it's not a person but a piece of you, a dream you let die, a fear you've outrun. The paradox hums here. Fear of loss haunts, but sitting with it feels like reclaiming. The candle flickers, shadows dance, and that empty chair? It's not empty. It's full of what you bring. Breaking the silence is the magic. After 30 minutes, raise a glass. Water, wine, cider, doesn't matter, and speak. If you're with others, go around. One memory, one truth, one thing you wish you'd said. If alone, say it to the chair, to the night, to yourself. I miss your stories, Grandma. Or, I'm sorry I didn't call more. It's not about answers, it's about release. Studies on ritual, like those from Harvard psychology labs, show this kind of structured grief lowers cortisol, boosts connection, even rewires your brain for resilience. The Dumb Supper isn't just old school. It's cutting-edge therapy, wrapped in Halloween's eerie glow. You walk away lighter, fear transformed from a shadow into a spark. Why revive this now? Because America's lost the plot. Halloween's a $12 billion beast, $500 million on haunted attractions alone, but it's hollow. We chase scares to feel alive, yet dodge the real haunt, mortality. Our culture's allergic to death. Think anti-aging serums, endless scrolls to numb the clock. The Dumb Supper, born in Celtic mists and carried by immigrants, was America's way of facing it. In 1800s tenements, families set silent tables to honor famine's ghosts. In Appalachian shacks, they dined with ancestors to keep roots alive. By the 1950s, candy and costumes drowned it out, but the need never left. Reviving it is rebellion, a middle finger to a world that sells fear but fears truth. It's not nostalgia, it's revolution, turning Halloween from a party into a portal. Let's get practical. You don't need a big budget or a Celtic ancestry. Grab what's in your fridge: apples, bread, leftovers. One candle, one chair, one memento. If you're with others, set ground rules. Silence is sacred, no interruptions. Solo? Use a journal post-toast to write what surfaced: regrets, thanks, or even a letter to the departed. Modern twist: record the silence on your phone, not to post, but to revisit, capturing the vibe for later reflection. Where to do it? Anywhere dim and quiet: your dining room, a porch, even a park bench if the night's clear. Timing: midnight's ideal, but any hour after dusk carries the weight. The key is commitment. 30 minutes, no distractions, full presence. Picture it. October 31st, your table's set, candlelight dancing. You're nervous. Good. That's the paradox at work. Fear's not the enemy, it's the guide. As you sit, the silence presses in, heavy with what you've buried. Maybe it's a parent's voice, a friend's smile, or a piece of yourself you let go. The empty chair holds it all, not as a ghost, but as a mirror. You eat, you feel, you speak, and when you do, it's like a spell breaking. The paradox resolves. Craving fear means craving life, and honoring the dead means honoring your own pulse. You'll leave that table different, not just haunted but whole. Let's zoom out. This ritual isn't just for you, it's for us. America's Halloween is a paradox, billions spent on dodging what we need to face. The Dumb Supper, lost in the Candy Crush, is our way back. It's not about seeing ghosts, it's about seeing yourself. Philosophy says facing death sparks authenticity. Psychology says rituals heal. History says this is our heritage. Combine them, and you've got a night that doesn't just scare, it saves. Post-supper, share it. Comment who sat at your empty chair. Or what fear did you unhaunt? Let's spark a revival. Make Halloween mean again. Back to that cemetery. The fog's lifting, the moon's fading, but the table's still there, candle burning. That's your invitation this Halloween. Take it, and the paradox isn't just solved, it's yours to wield. Fear's not the haunt, forgetting is. Set the table, sit with the silence, and let the night change you. The whispers are waiting. Will you listen?